Hi guys, welcome to another tutorial. Today I am going to be showing you how to make a bomber jacket, and this is basically on the pattern making. Now the first thing I have done right here is to take my zipper allowance, which is about 1.5 inches. You can decide to make yours 1 inch. Now from that line, I will take my shoulder to shoulder measurement divided by 2, and I would add 1/2 inch for allowance to join to my sleeve. Now I will just go downwards by 1 inch for my shoulder slant, and from my zipper same allowance line I will take 3 inches, which is standard for connecting your shoulder slant. Now I will take my neckline measurement. I will use 3 inches in length and also 3 inches in width for my neckline measurement. Don't forget to add your neckline curve. And from my shoulder slant, I would take my armhole depth, which is 8.5 inches, and I would connect my line. Now this line is going to be my bust line. Now the next measurement I am going to take right now is my bust circumference divided by 4. And also don't forget that your bomber jacket needs allowance. It is not fitted, so you need seam allowance, you need ease. So I added 2 inches for ease and 1 inch for sewing allowance. Now to determine the length of your bomber jacket, you need your zipper. Just place it at your neckline, and the length of your zipper would be where your bomber jacket would stop. As you can see, I just placed my mark right there. Now at this point, you also need to make sure that the zipper you are using can be opened at the bottom, as you can see. Now from here, I would measure the length of my jacket, which is 24 inches. Now I will just measure that length all the way and connect my line. Now next thing I am doing right now is to place 1/2 inch for bottom hemming allowance. On my length, I will take my hip circumference divided by 4, and I would add that same 2 inches I added on my bust line for ease. I will add it right here, and I would also add 1 inch for sewing allowance. Now if you notice, you would see that I didn't take any waist measurement, any shoulder to waist measurement, because it is not needed. On my armhole line, I will place my tape rule like this and find the midpoint and go inwards by 1 inch and connect my armhole curve. And as it is, the front pattern is finished, and I will just cut this out. So now what we're going to do right now is we're going to retrace the front pattern on a new pattern so as to draft the back pattern. Now as you can see, I just folded my zipper allowance for my front pattern, and I just placed it at the edge of this new pattern. And from the highest point of my shoulder, I will just take that marginal line right there. And next thing I am going to do is to connect my armhole line like this. And the neckline I am going to be using for the length for the back is going to be 1.5 inches in length, and the width remains the same with the front neckline. Right now I would cut the neckline of the back, and I will cut the shoulder, which is going to be the same with the front, and I would cut the armhole like this and also cut out the rest. Now, in case you're wondering, in pattern making, the neckline of the front is usually deeper than the neckline of the back. If you're used to pattern making, you should know that by now. Next thing I am going to do right now is to place my front and back pattern together, and from the bottom up I am going to take 3 inches, and this 3 inches is going to serve as my band pattern. You know, in bomber jacket there is this band you usually see at the bottom of your jacket, and this pattern is going to serve as that band. For the band, I am going to be using the scuba fabric, and it is really thick and very stretchy. You can also use any fabric of your choice that is thick and also has a very stretchy feel to it. Now I'm going to fold this scuba in half, and I'm going to place my pattern on that fold. As you can see, I am using the front pattern. Now I will just go on and cut this out as it is, and also make sure to add 1/2 inch allowance at both ends. As you can see, I only used the front pattern to only cut the band because the band is very stretchy and it will stretch all the way to the back. Now for the back pattern, I will fold it over like this and I will cut this into 2. Now I am going to use this to cut on my fabric. And from what I was saying, this band is going to stretch all the way to the back, as you can see. In the sewing process, you will understand better what I am trying to say to you. Now, as you can see, I am done cutting this band and I have cut this one on my fabric, and I am going to place it right here at each sides. Now I will take the neckline of the back, which is 4 inches, and I would also take the neckline of the front. But before I do that, I would place my zipper allowance on fold, and my front neckline is 5 inches. Now because my pattern is on fold, both the front and the back, that means my back pattern is going to be 8 inches instead of 4 inches, and the front pattern is going to be 10 inches instead of 5 inches, and that in total is 18 inches. Now as you can see, my pattern is on fold and I just took a marginal line, and from this point I will go upwards by 1/2 inch, and I will take 1.5 from that 1/2 inch line, and I will place my 18 inches mark like this. And the next thing I am going to do right now is place that same 1.5 inches I placed right here, and I'll place it right here, and I'll connect my lines. Now, next thing I'm going to do is to take 2 inches from this point. I'll take 2 inches, and from this point, I'll take 1/2 inch or 0.3 inches and just connect that line. And next thing I'll do is to cut this pattern out. Now I am going to place this and cut on my scuba fabric, just like I did for my band, and just make sure that the bottom part is folded, and I will just go in and cut out the rest. And now as you can see, I left 1/2 inch seam allowance at the edges so as to join to my jacket. And as you can see, I have also cut out my front pattern on my fabric, and I left 1/2 inch seam allowance at the bottom for joining to my band. As you can see, my front pattern, I cut 2 of it, and for my back pattern, I left seam allowance at the bottom, and my back pattern, I cut it on fold. As you can see, it is on fold. It is just one piece for the back pattern. And for the sleeve, I am going to be using the basic sleeve pattern. I have a tutorial on how to draft this basic sleeve pattern. If you don't know how to draft this, please go and watch that video. Now from my seam allowance of my sleeve, I am taking 2.5 inches mark, as you can see. And this is going to serve as my jacket band. You know, in your bomber jackets, you see that band thing around the wrist area, and this is what I am going to use for it. I'm going to just place this on my scuba, and I will just cut this out. Now, as you can see, I have cut out my sleeve on my fabric and I left seam allowance at the bottom for joining to the band, and I also left seam allowance at the top for joining to my jacket. And here, my lovely friends, is your bomber jacket pattern tutorial. I am going to be making a part 2, which is going to be the sewing and conclusion part for this tutorial, and do watch out for the video. If you like this video, do give it a thumbs up and hope to see you in much more exciting tutorials to come. See you. Bye bye. Cheers.